Now, this event is going to be covering 4 major topics, and I'm going to try to go through them as quick as we can so that you can go shopping or whatever you do on a Saturday afternoon. Okay, so a quick brief introduction about myself, and then we're going to basically be breaking down this talk into fat loss, muscle attainment, muscle growth, and probably the biggest question of it all, why we hit weight loss plateaus. Okay? And then there'll be a Q&A at the end. Does that sound good? Okay. So, a very brief introduction. My name is Dr. Jonathan Sean Lee, and ever since the age of 16, I've been going to the gym. My love affair with the gym actually started since the age of 12, when I actually walked into my brother, who's actually filming this afternoon. I walked into his bedroom and I found a VHS copy of a documentary entitled Pumping Iron. Now, for the younger people here, VHS is what we used to watch movies on before DVDs came out. For the older people, you may remember this documentary. It was a 1977 documentary. Who's heard of it, by the way? Pumping Iron? Am I the only one who's seen it? You've seen it? Okay, I think you're just saying that. It was a 1977 documentary featuring a then unknown Arnold Schwarzenegger, who, again, for the younger people in the audience, used to be a bodybuilder before he became an actor. And this 1977 documentary featured Arnold Schwarzenegger competing with another, later to be famous, Lou Ferrigno, who played the first Incredible Hulk. And they're both bodybuilders competing for Mr. Olympia. Now, at the age of 12, I saw this and I thought, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. I want to be a bodybuilder. At the age of 12, I was too young to go to the gym. But at the age of 16, I started going to the gym. And within 2 years, by the time I was 18, I had achieved what I considered to be the perfect body. And I wasn't shy to show off my body to everybody. I had a six-pack, I had rock-hard chest, and I was proud, I was very arrogant, and I was very cocky. And I thought I knew everything. I knew everything about fat loss. I knew everything about muscle growth. And people will ask me questions. How do you lose fat? And I always had an answer for them. How do you grow muscle? And I always had an answer for them. Unfortunately, or probably fortunately, depending on point of view, my arrogance got the better of me, because by the time I was 23, I started to get fat. And not just a little bit fat, but very, very fat. And I couldn't understand why. Everything that was working for me when I was 16 wasn't working for me when I was 23. For example, when I was 16, all I had to do was a few press-ups and I ended up with a rock-hard chest. When I was 23, I'd do press-ups and ended up with a soft chest. It was flaccid. I couldn't understand this. When I was 16, I'd do some sit-ups and I had a six-pack. Brilliant. When I was 23, I'd do sit-ups and end up with a one-pack. And just got fatter and fatter. Can you see that? Well, it's not a very good picture, but yeah. Basically, that was me at 18, that was me at 25. I went to the doctors for a routine medical checkup. He asked me to take my top off. And he looked at me and he said, "You're a beast." I said, "I'm a beast?" "No, you are obese, you're fat. You need to lose weight. You need to go to the gym. You need to go on a diet." I said, "That's what I've been doing for the last 8 years. I've been gymming. I went on every diet that there was. I went on Weight Watchers, Slimming World. I did intermittent fasting before that was even a thing. This is back in the 90s. I even went to university. I studied sports nutrition and medical sciences. I did this for 2 reasons. 1, because I've always been fascinated by the human body. And 2, I was more fascinated by my own body because I didn't know what was going on. I was just getting fat and everything was frustrating me." That was back in 1998. Let's fast forward to 2019, 21 years later. I have since found effective and duplicatable ways of burning fat, building muscle, and living a long, healthy, and vibrant life. I have since written 4 health and fitness books, all specializing in how to burn fat, how to build muscle, how to live a long, healthy, and vibrant life. In addition to that, I have also managed to dispel many of the popular myths within the health and fitness industry, an industry which incidentally grosses more than $80 billion each and every year. Now that's a lot of money, isn't it? Would you agree? Yeah. My mother always used to say, wherever there's a scam, there's a money trail. Wherever there's a money trail, there's a scam. And the health and fitness industry, as you may well be aware, is full to the brim of BS. I'm sorry to say that, but it is full to the brim of BS supplements, BS workout regimes, BS weight loss regimes, BS personal training regimes. In fact, the health and fitness industry in itself is pretty much full to the brim of BS with little bits of truth sprinkled here and there. I made it my mission to differentiate between this money-driven fiction and science-backed fact. I want to present you with the information in a digestible and easy to understand format, which I've done in the books that I've written. In this event, I'm going to share the information with you. I've decided to call this seminar, How to Get the Perfect Body. Not that. Does this excite you? Is this something that you want to learn? I can't hear anything. Does this excite you? Okay, great. I'm in the right place. Okay, without further ado, what is the perfect body? Now, I realize that that's a controversial question in itself. So I'm going to give you the politically correct answer. Dexter Wolfe said that the perfect body is the one that allows me, myself, and I to attain peace of mind today, tomorrow, and forevermore. Now, does that sound like a wonderful, crowd-pleasing answer? Put your hand up. If this was a talk show, and somebody said that, the audience will put hands together in unison, wouldn't they? They'd say, oh, what a wonderful answer. Unfortunately, this is not a talk show. If anything, it's a reality show. You see, the reality of the situation is that gyms are being erected every 5 minutes, and within 2 months, those gyms are packed. The reality of the situation is that people are spending millions, literally millions every year, on diets, most of which don't work. The reality of the situation is that very few people are actually happy with the way they look. And this has actually been proven in a study that was carried out in 1997. And it was published in a magazine called Psychology Today. Who's heard of Psychology Today? Okay. What they did is they went up to thousands and thousands of people, just like you and me. And they asked them, how do you feel about your physique? Now, this is quite an open question. And there are 3 types of responses. One group actually said, I think I look great. Very small group. The second group said they didn't really care about how they looked. They didn't care what anybody thought. But the third group, when asked, how would you feel if you took your top off and looked in the mirror? The third group actually said, I hate the way I look, in not so many words. In fact, 4,500 people fit into that latter category. And the reasons that they hated the way they looked really was because they were either too fat or too thin. They were either too fat and wanted to lose weight, too thin and wanted to gain weight. But what do you think? Now, this is a politically incorrect answer, okay? But if you men, guys, if you had to pick the perfect body, so to speak, would you say the left, the right, or the guy in the middle? If you had to pick. The guy in the middle. Ladies, if you had to pick between the lady on the left and the lady on the right, and you had to pick one, which one would you pick? The lady on the right, okay. You see, there's 2 ways to look at this subject. We can look at the politically correct, crowd-pleasing answer, or we can look at the politically incorrect. The truth is, it doesn't matter what the answer is, because what you decide to do with your life and your body is up to you. All I'm going to be talking about is the science behind fat loss and muscle growth. But I think that when you ask most people, and I think what we got from the Psychology Today article, was that most people want to look lean. They feel happy looking lean, ideally athletic. I mean, what does lean actually mean? Lean technically means less than 11% body fat for men, less than 19% body fat for women. Both these guys look lean, but they look completely different. Do you agree with that? One of them looks a little bit more muscular, the other one looks a little bit thinner. There's no right and wrong, but it proves the point that sometimes you have to be a little bit more specific with what we mean when we say lean. So I'm going to ask you, this part of the talk is going to be about burning fat. How do you burn fat?
Exercise.
Okay. Exercise, yep. Diet. Okay, diet. So what's the right diet to go on? Let's say that you gained a few pounds, you want to lose weight. What's the right diet to go on?
Balanced, healthy diet.
But what diet is that? Does it matter? Okay. So what's up? Plant-based, okay. Okay. So basically all these diets you would go on to lose the fat, am I right? Hmm? I didn't hear you, sorry. Estrogen, yep, okay. So hormonal changes, yep. But if you look more directly, would you say that diet is the answer if you want to lose fat? I just want to make sure we're on the same page. Yep? Okay. So, nutrition, yep, okay, I'm getting to that. So, diet is a solution if you want to lose weight, but which diet to go on? Now, that's where people get very confused, because what's the best diet to go on? There's so many out there, okay? And they all work to some degree. This is the 5-2 diet. Can you see the before and afters? All of these diets are real people, taken from people who've actually done these diets. What about the Rosemary Conley diet, the low GI diet? You can see before and afters. So you might be thinking, okay, I might go on the 5-2, I might go on the Rosemary Conley, because I've seen these pictures and they look very impressive. But what about the vegan diet, as you mentioned, plant-based? You can lose weight on the vegan diet. You can lose weight on the ketogenic diet. So what's the right diet? You can lose weight on the Cambridge diet. You can lose weight on Weight Watchers. You can lose weight on Slimming World and Slim Fast. They all give you results. So what's the right diet to go on? In fact, a better question, what do all these diets have in common?
Weight loss.
What do all of these diets have in common? One thing that they all have in common.
When you stop doing them, you get the weight back on.
Okay, but before that, how did you saw that they all had results? They were all before and afters. They all seem to work to some degree, but why?
They have some element of restrictions or...
Yeah, all diets have to be restrictive, but restrictive in what?
What you eat.
Yep, calories. Okay. As it says here, no matter what diet you go on, you need to be on a calorie deficit. And I think that's the point I'm really trying to make. All of these diets that you saw, they worked because the people who went on these diets were on a calorie deficit. So let me put it another way. If you went on any of these diets, but you ate more calories than you burnt, what would happen? Will you still lose weight? Will you still burn fat? You'll get fatter. So if you went on the 5-2 diet, I'm on the 5-2 diet. Look at me, I'm on the 5-2 diet, but I eat 5,000 calories a day, but I only burn 2,000 calories a day. Am I going to lose weight? So, don't take my word for it. I'm just someone who spent many, many years of my life reading books like a nerd, trying to figure out what the truth was. So let's see what the science says. These are just a handful of studies over the years, which pretty much say the same thing. You have to be on a calorie deficit if you want to lose weight. But I want to put the final nail in the coffin. Who's heard of the Twinkie diet? No? Who's heard of the Twinkie diet? Okay. Who's heard of Professor Mark Hobb? In my world, in the nutrition world, this guy is like Michael Jackson. He's like the most famous professor in the world, because he basically disproved many of the popular myths within the health and fitness industry. Professor Mark Hobb is actually a professor in nutrition. He's someone who actually teaches people nutrition in America. And most of his students went up to him and said, what's the best diet to go on? And he said, you've got to go on a calorie deficit. And he kept saying the same thing, got to go on a calorie deficit, got to go on a calorie deficit. So you know what he actually did? He went on the Twinkie, he invented the Twinkie diet. He went on a calorie deficit consisting of junk food. Now, I'm not saying that you should go on the Twinkie diet, because there's a million reasons why you shouldn't, but he did this just to prove a point. He was eating Doritos, he was eating Oreos, sugary cereals. He was eating all of the naughty stuff you shouldn't be eating on a calorie deficit. And yet he managed to lose 27 pounds in 10 weeks. He managed to drop his BMI, his cholesterol went down, and his body fat dropped from 33 to 24%. Now, there is something that he did do, which I must stress. He did take protein shakes and he did take multivitamins. But the point is that this kind of disproves a lot of those low carb ideas, you know. Calories is everything. Let's see some other examples. The McDonald's diet. These are crazy diets. This guy, John Sisner, 37 pounds in 90 days. This has been documented by eating predominantly McDonald's on a calorie deficit. The potato diet. Who's heard of the potato diet? Yeah? It just proves, again, the calories. So, any questions so far? Who would like to learn about how to lose calories? Now, the first thing you have to do is find out what your maintenance calories are. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over that with you, okay? We're going to go over how to find out what your maintenance calories are, and then from there, we've got a baseline. Now, there's 3 ways to find out your maintenance calories. I'm going to use this guy here, this guy called Dave, yeah? An artificial guy. Dave, he wants to lose weight. So Dave decides that he wants to go on a diet. But in order to do so, he has to work out his calorie maintenance. Now, there's 3 ways that Dave can find out his calorie maintenance. There's an accurate way, there's a less accurate way, and then there's just a rough estimate. Now, I'm going to speed through this, okay? Who's interested in finding out an accurate way of learning calorie maintenance? Good, good. Okay, so I'm going to go over the most accurate way of calories. Basically, how calories work is if let's say that you have, I don't know, 2,000 calories a day. That's your average. Your weight will stay the same. So if you drop down to, let's say, 1,500, you'll lose weight. Do you mind if I ask how much you weigh in pounds?
I don't know.
Okay. How much do you, does anyone mind actually telling? Okay, how much do you? Okay, how much is that in pounds? Anyway, what you do is you would take your weight in pounds and you multiply it by one of these numbers. So what you do is you look at how busy you are. If you're one of those people who stays at home all day, you work on a computer, then you're going to have a lower value. If you go to the gym quite a bit, is everything working okay? Yeah. Go to the gym quite a bit, you're looking at a little bit higher value. If you live in the gym, it's higher. What you do is to assess, this is a very rough way of doing it, but to assess your calorie intake, what you do is you take that value and multiply it with by your weight. So let's say that you weigh 200 pounds. You go to the gym 3 times a week. Then what you do is you take that value, 200 pounds, and times it by anything between 14 and 16. And that will give you an estimate of your daily calorie intake. Is that all making sense? Any questions? Stop me anywhere if you want me to stop. Okay. Now, this is the least accurate way of doing it. For those of you who really can't be bothered to do that, you just want a rough estimate of what your calorie intake is, then you take your weight in pounds and you multiply it between 14 and you multiply it between 16, and your rough guesstimate value would be anywhere in between, well, let's say if you're 200 pounds, between that value and that value. So we're looking at, if you are 200 pounds, you can guesstimate your calorie intake at 2,800 to 3,200. Now, please stop me if you want to ask me any questions, or if, is that all making sense? Quiz time. How much does the average person in the UK weigh? Roughly. Do you know? Too much? Okay, that's a good answer. It's not far off actually, to be honest. The average person in the UK, the average man weighs 13 stone or 180 pounds. And the average woman weighs 155 pounds or 11 stone. Is that more than you thought or less than you thought?
Less.
Okay.
Definitely less.
Okay.
Less.
What about the calorie intake? Now, this is quite interesting because the recommended calorie intake for the average person, and again, there really is not such thing as an average person, but the average person, they would say men recommended 2,500 calories a day, women 2,000 calories a day. The reality of the situation, according to Public Health England, is that the average man in this country is taking home 3,200 calories a day, and the average lady is taking home 2,400 calories a day. Okay? So, as you're probably well aware, we're becoming a little bit more like America. There's becoming a bit more obese. There's something to be aware of. Now, is that all? Do you have any questions? Anybody have any questions so far? Is it all making sense? Because I don't want to lose anyone. Okay. Now, you might be thinking, that's cool, I'll just drop my calories. But what about hormones? Who knows about hormones? What are hormones? Yep, chemical messages regulate the body, yep. You know what, I like to use the analogy of cars. Losing weight is a bit like driving a car. Now, this is a problem that I had when I was 23. Because remember what I said before, I said when I was younger, I just did a few press-ups, I'd do a short-term diet, I'd lose loads of weight. But when I was older, I kept hitting these plateaus. Now, that's where hormones come in. Okay, so we're in Birmingham now. You've got to drive to London for, I don't know, 4 o'clock. You've got to get there in the next hour and a half. What do? You drive there, you put your foot down on the accelerator, you're driving 120 miles an hour. Do you think you'll get to London in one piece? You don't stop, just go 120 miles an hour. You're either going to crash or you're going to get arrested. Either way, you're not going to get to London in time, yeah? What if you decide to drive at 20 miles an hour or 30 miles an hour? It'll take you forever to get there, am I right? Well, "70 miles an hour is a sweet spot." Now, why do I say that? Because the human body is no different. In the human body, we have fat-burning hormones and we got fat-storing hormones. Now, I want to use the analogy of driving the car. The fat-burning hormones is like putting your foot down on the accelerator. The fat-storing hormones is like putting your foot down on the brake. Driving the car is losing the weight. Now, what a lot of people do on the 2nd of January, after they've gained a few pounds after Christmas, they go on a crash diet. They drop their calories to ridiculous amounts. Have you heard of the lettuce diet? Have you heard of the cabbage diet? Okay, basically what that means is that they will lose loads and loads of weight really quickly, but then it's like driving to London 120 miles an hour. You're going to crash, hence the crash diet. Do you get it? Okay, so what we want to do is we want to basically lose weight without these hormones going in overdrive. And before I continue, there's something called leptin. Now, leptin is a bit like the fuel gauge. Imagine that you're driving on the motorway and the fuel gauge comes up and it says that you're running low on petrol, but you don't know where your next petrol station is. What are you going to do? You're going to keep driving at 80 miles an hour, or maybe you're going to drive a bit slower? What are you going to do? A bit slower, right? That's what the human body does. The human body, when you go on a crash diet, or when you go on any diet, leptin kind of regulates these fat burning and fat storing hormones. Now, is that making sense? Please tell me if that doesn't, and I will say it again. Is that all making sense? Okay. So leptin basically regulates how many of these fat storing and fat burning hormones are released. So again, as I said before, you cut your calorie intake too little, and you'll be very slow fat loss. You cut your calorie intake too much, and you're more likely to crash. So the sweet spot, we say, is 15 to 25% below maintenance. So, in summary, what you want to do is find out your maintenance calories, which I've already gone over, and then you want to reduce that amount by 15 to 25%, and that's a relatively safe way of doing it without crashing. And you watch the weight drop off. Quiz time! Who's this guy and what's the relevance? David Blaine? Yep. What's your name, mate? What's your name? Paul. Here you go. Have a copy of my book. Why did I put that up here? Yep. That's an interesting point, but that's not the reason why I put it up there. Who remembers when this picture was taken?
Food and water.
Yeah. It's 44 days without food. I was actually in London. I'm from London, so I remember when this happened. And he went 44 days without food. Now think about this. Because the reason I put this up here is because I want to, again, put the point home. If he was losing weight on day 1 as quick as he was on day 44, do you think he'd last 44 days? Or he'd just be a skeleton, right? Because those hormones kick in, okay? Those fat storing hormones. You're driving real fast, you put the brakes down, yeah? Okay. What's the problem with diets? What's the problem with cutting your calories? Anyone, anybody, please. The answer's on the screen. Yeah, partly that, but I was thinking, what's you lose muscle, yeah. You lose weight, you're going to lose muscle, yeah? Basically, what's happening is, we can cut the sound out. What's happening is that when you lose the weight, we lose the fat, which is great, but we're also going to lose the muscle, which is not so great. So what we really want to do is we want to lose the fat, but keep the muscle. Ideally, even grow the muscle if possible, right? Quiz time! Who's that guy? Christian Bale. Wow, I didn't get that. Wow, Christian Bale. Yep, that's Christian Bale. Can you see that? Do you know? Have you ever seen have you seen The Machinist? Have you seen that movie, The Machinist? Okay. Now, whilst he was preparing for that movie, do you know what he ate? He prepared for this movie. He had to become a very thin person for the movie, yeah? So he decided to eat an apple a day, and that's it. Just an apple a day. And sometimes he'll have tuna fish, but it's basically an apple a day. And that's what he looked like at the end of it. I don't think that's the perfect body, would you agree? I mean, the politically incorrect answer would even say that, yeah. That's what he looked like 1 year later, when he was in Batman Begins. And this was a quote from Christian Bale. He said, after filming The Machinist, I lost so much muscle that I could barely do a press-up. It took me many, many months of intense weight training to get the muscle back. Intense weight training. That should be a clue of what we've got to do if you want to keep the muscle whilst losing the fat. Now, why did I put this up here?
Good recipe to take muscle.
No. I put this as an analogy. I put this up here for a reason. I actually got this from the internet. Okay, now I'm not a very good cook, but I thought I'm going to make this one day. Okay, so I looked at all the ingredients I had, and I did not have any parsley. I had some thyme, but I didn't have any parsley. Now let's be honest. If you're going to make this, but you don't have parsley, but you've got thyme, do you think that it will still be okay? Yeah? I'm going somewhere with this. Don't worry. Okay. Evo extra virgin olive oil. I don't have Evo extra virgin olive oil. I've got Tesco branded extra virgin olive oil, but I don't have the Evo extra virgin olive oil. Do you think I could still get away with making this tuna surprise? Yeah? It still tastes okay, right? I don't have any Himalayan salt. I've only got conventional table salt. Oh no. Do you think I could still get away with making a nice tasting tuna surprise? Right. If I didn't have any tuna, I'd be in for a surprise, right? See, the reason I say that is because there's a lot of, as I said before, there's a lot of BS out there. There's a lot of people saying, you need this, you need that. They're focusing on the garnish as opposed to the tuna fish. Okay? There's a lot of people, you need this supplement, you need that supplement, you need the Evo virgin olive oil in order to get success. No, you don't. It might make a slight difference, but that's not the tuna fish. And that's what I really want to focus on today. I want to focus on the tuna fish and not the garnish. So we want to talk about how to maintain muscle during a calorie deficit. And these are the things that you need. Okay? You need the macronutrients. Who knows what macronutrients are? Who knows what macronutrients are, yeah? Basically, macronutrients is what makes up 99% of the food that you eat. Okay? You've got the carbohydrates, the protein, and fiber, and fat, and alcohol if you off that. You need testosterone. You need to sleep. Sleep's important, right? Okay. A calorie surplus, which I'm going to touch on a bit later on, and exercise. And there's more, which is in my book. Okay, you can buy it if you want. So, there's macronutrients. We've got the carbohydrates, proteins, fat, and dietary fiber. That's what makes up most of the food that you eat. So let's talk about protein. Who knows about protein? Okay. What's the big deal about protein? Everyone talks about it all the time, am I right? You've been getting protein Mars bars and protein this, protein that. Why? Why is protein such a big deal? Yep. Yep. Okay, put it this way, look. How many people rely on their car? Yeah? You drive a car, okay. Let's say that you won £600. Yeah? Oh no, I don't know, you did some kind of quiz or something, you won £600. But as soon as you won that money, your car broke down and it cost £600 to repair your car. Would you spend the £600 going out on a shopping spree, or would you spend the £600 fixing your car? Exactly. Now, protein is exactly the same. Protein is a very busy thing, but protein is a very busy macronutrient. It's used to make skin, hair, nails, cells, hormones, enzymes, antibodies, blood clotting factors, neurotransmitters, and it's also used to keep us alive. And then, once it's done all that, it's got a bit left over. If you've got a bit left over, then you can grow muscle with it. You get me? It's a bit like the 600 pounds thing. If you have a bit left over, you don't have to fix your car, then you can do what you want with the 600 pounds. See, what happens with a lot of people, if they don't get enough protein, then what happens is the body starts to break down muscle protein in order to do all these other really important things. But it's more important to have functioning hormones than it is to have big biceps. So we need to make sure we get enough protein in our diets, especially if you want to maintain muscle during a calorie deficit. And what's the recommended amount, by the way? Anyone know? On average? Yeah, it's around 1 gram per pound. So 1 gram per pound body weight. Now, is fat good or is fat bad? Yeah, there's good and bad fat, yeah. What's the bad fat? Yep, junk food which contains trans fat. Yeah. So we want to minimize the trans fat. But what's so good about fat? Why do we need fat? Yep, energy, yep. Yep. It's all here, yep. So we've got certain vitamins that we can't operate on without fat. And have you heard of the omega-3s, the omega-6s, you know, fish oils, things like that? It's very important for cells. Again, it's very important for hormones. It's very important for brain function, nerve function. Most importantly, in regards to what we're talking about today, it's very important for muscle growth and testosterone. So we need to make sure we get enough fat. Fiber's important for
Regulating.
bowel movements, yep. And also keeps you full up. And it also helps feed the good bacteria. Carbohydrates. What's so good about carbohydrates? Energy, yep. And a lot of people don't know this. Actually, carbohydrates is also very good for testosterone production, especially if you're active. So people who say low carb this, low carb that, well, you know, maths time. Okay. I'm going to be really quick. How are we for time, by the way? Are we okay for time? Yeah, okay, cool. So, remember, now I'm going to be really quick because you have to concentrate a bit on this bit because it is a little bit mathy, okay? But remember I said earlier about calories. I said that we want to cut our calories down to lose the weight. But we also want to make sure we get enough protein. We want to make sure we don't cut our fats too much. And we want to get a balance right. So what we do, and I talk about this in detail in the book, by the way, but we're going to look how much, so in 1 gram of each macronutrient, how many calories? Okay, I'm going to run through this really quick because it can get a bit complicated, but you've got 4 calories in 1 gram of carbs, 4 calories in 1 gram of protein, and you've got 9 calories in 1 gram of fat. So calories in fat is actually twice as much as the calories in protein and carbs. And I'm not going to talk about the fiber or alcohol. Okay, I'm just going to talk about those 3 for the moment. So let's go back to Dave again. Okay, Dave has found out that he needs to be on a 15% calorie deficit. So his calorie intake was 2,900. He wants to lose weight now, so he's on 15% calorie deficit. So he's now having 2,465 calories a day. Brilliant. But what about the ratio of carbs, proteins, and fats? That's very important. So let's say, okay, I think it's 15 or 20%. That might be a typo, but let's say 2,465 from his 2,900. 1 gram of protein is recommended no matter what you're doing. If you're gaining weight or losing weight, we recommend 1 gram per pound of protein. And 1 gram per pound of protein for someone like Dave, who's 200 pounds, equates to 200 grams a day. Am I right? 200 grams, if you multiply that by 4, is 800 calories. So the remaining calories come from carbs and fat. He has to have 800 calories from, for his protein, or from his protein, and the rest of the calories comes from carbs and fat. Have I lost anybody? Are you with me? Now, carbohydrate requirements. How much carbohydrates you require depends on how active you are. So, if you're really, really active, then you're going to need more carbohydrates, am I right? Because carbohydrates give you energy, helps you make testosterone, etc. So, we're going to say that we're going to say that Dave, he's moderately active. So he is in these are the values that we use. So we multiply this value with his weight. Now, I notice that you're probably looking at this and saying 0. There's a baseline of 100 grams. I've lost you. I know I've lost you, haven't I? Okay. If you're sedentary and don't do anything, then we would say 0 is your activity level. Now, it's not really going to be that. It's going to be 100 grams of your carbohydrates is how much you need, or it's how much that we suggest that you have if you're sedentary and you're using this equation. Again, I explain this in a lot of detail in the books, but I'm speeding through this because there's a lot to cover. But we're going to say that in Dave's example, we're going to use this value, 1.5, and we're going to multiply 1.5 by 200, which is his weight, and that's going to equate to 300 grams a day carbs. We multiply that by 4, and that's 1,200 calories from carbs. What's his fat requirements? The fat requirement is basically what's left over. So it's going to be 2,465 minus 800 minus 1,200, which equals 465 calories. You divide that by 9, and that's 52 grams. Now, this isn't going to make a lot of sense now, but when you watch the video, it will. The video is going to be uploaded to my website in a few days, so, okay. The bottom line is that when you're dieting, something has to go. Okay? You're going to have to cut something down, whether it's your carbs, your fats, your proteins. Now, we suggest that you don't cut your proteins, but it's going to be your carbs or your fats. How many people are over 40? Okay. Now, especially for men, testosterone levels tend to drop over the age of 40. Testosterone is very important for muscle growth. So it's something that we should talk about. Now, how do you boost your testosterone levels?
Weight training.
Yep. Weight training, yep. What else? It's all on the screen.
Eating more fats, that's interesting.
To some degree, yes. To some degree, because also, see, if you remember what I said earlier about how if you're on a diet, something has to go. So you do have to cut your fats to a certain amount. We recommend not to cutting them too low, because it's very important for testosterone production as well as other things. But you do have to cut something down a little bit. So you can cut your fat and your carbs, for example. But you do need, ideally, in the ideal world, you need enough fat and you need enough carbohydrates, especially if you're active, to boost your testosterone levels. You need to work out, you need to sleep, and there are other factors like the micronutrients. Now, I said macronutrients make up most of the food. Micronutrients make up a little bit of the food. But those micronutrients are extremely important, okay? And one of the micronutrients is zinc and vitamin D, you know? You know about vitamin D? Sunshine, etc., yeah. Let's talk about sleep. So you want to get around 7-8 hours of sleep for a variety of reasons. This is like the science stuff, okay? But I'm going to break it down a little bit easier. Basically, you want to have sleep to optimize muscle growth, to repair damaged tissues, and in regards to what we're talking about, we want to have bigger muscles. Now, muscle grows when? In the gym or when you're sleeping? Sleeping, exactly, yeah. Now that brings us to exercise. And you mentioned it correctly about weight training, resistance training. So we really want to make sure that we're getting enough exercise to maintain the muscle. Now that's the end of part 1. How are we doing for time? We good? Oh, do you have to go? Okay. This is going to be uploaded onto the website anyway, so I'll fill you in with it. Shall we continue or do you want a little break? Yeah, shall we just go ahead with it? Okay.